Hi Jody, thanks for meeting with me today. Perhaps you could start by telling us about what it is exactly that you do at First Psychology.
I'm a CBT practitioner here with First Psychology.
And how long have you been a CBT practitioner?
Well, probably about 6 years. I'm first qualified as a mental health nurse. So I've been a mental health nurse for about 9 years. And then out of that, I've been a practitioner for 3 years, so kind of, overlapping.
Yeah. And how long of that time have you been with First Psychology?
Just the past 3 years.
Just the past 3 years, so since you started in CBT. Okay, and so when did you first decide this was the career that you wanted, and how did you first become interested in doing this sort of work?
Well, I think it's probably taken me about 20 years to finally figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up.
So quite a long time.
Yeah, so I was first I was in management for a while, well for most of my career, where I lived in the States, and in New York City, in health information management, in a medical record department. And it was I generally liked the job, but I wasn't doing what I liked. And so eventually I decided, rather than managing people, I would rather care for people. So I think it was going to take me really like 8 years to do a master's through the Open University. So I went to mental health nursing. It wasn't until I had an elective in my last year of my nursing, mental health nursing, that I was with a nurse consultant at the short stay ward, who was seeing people who had self-harmed or tried to commit suicide, and it was at that point with my mentor, Scott Kane, I thought, this is really what I want to do.
And did you find it a difficult job to get into? What kind of qualifications and experience was required for the role that you're in just now?
I found it really, really hard because I didn't have my undergraduate in psychology, and in Tayside especially, it's very difficult to get into psychotherapy, without having a psychology background. So I did my post-grad diploma in CBT. I did quite a bit of research just to find out, what would be marketable. Looking at how the time it might take, with trying to juggle working full time. And so I thought the post-grad diploma was a really good shot. And thankfully, while I was in the program became accredited with the BABCP.
Oh, while you were actually in the program?
Yes, and actually I was, there were a few of us who were on the panel when the BABCP came in to decide, to look, whether the program should be accredited. So I was really happy that I had decided to do the course at Dundee University.
And how many clients would you see in a typical week here at First Psychology?
Probably about 4 or 5 a week. I work on a Monday and a Thursday evening after my full-time job that I have in the NHS. So I probably see 16 or 18 people per week in the NHS. So I do see, say, 2 or 3 people in an evening, and I like to try to make sure that I'm going to be fully available.
Of course.
For the people I'm going to see, mentally
as well. Okay. And what have you found most rewarding about being a practitioner?
I have to say I feel really humbled and honored that people want to share their life story with me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, people share the most difficult, vulnerable things that have happened to them. And I feel really, really honored to be a part of that.
And what would you say you find most challenging, and what difficulties have you faced in your role?
I suppose it probably is a bit of, you know, everybody having, you know, everybody being so completely different from each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then trying to, you know, work out, you know, what each person is going to find helpful, really.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that's difficult is that not everybody has the ability to engage in therapy. And it's, you know, your heart goes out for the things that, you know, the difficulties that people have been through, and just that, you know, not everybody is going to benefit from it. And
it's not for everyone.
And you want to be able to help everybody, and I guess it's just the realization that, you know, I can't help everybody.
That does sound right. And is being a CBT practitioner, is it what you expected, or have things surprised you along the way?
I think it has, you know, it has been a lot of what I have expected. I suppose what does surprise me or amaze me is, you know, despite what difficulties people have been through, and people have been through some really, really difficult things in their lives, but the power of human spirit to overcome, you know, in cases that you would never think that somebody could ever get over or get through, and so that's really been amazing and, you know, pleasantly
surprising. Great. And do you personally have any areas of expertise or specific interests in your field, or in a different area you might want to explore?
Well, in the present job that I'm in, I do work with people who have, you know, really complex, you know, psychological issues, and half of my post is with the general population, and the other half is with veterans. So, you know, just really, you know, trauma has been something that over the past couple of years I've gotten to have quite a bit of experience working with people who've had, you know, lots of trauma in their lives, starting out usually from quite a young age. And working with veterans, I think, has really drawn my interest. And I really have enjoyed that, and again feel really honored to be able to, you know, that's veteran, that some, you know, people have let me into knowing what's gone on in the military life, which is often very difficult to allow civilians.
Absolutely.
So probably a bit of, you know, trauma, and OCD. People who have OCD. I think it's just through some experience that, you know, it just happens to be, you know, who walks through your door that you get the experience. And but I, you know, that's another area of interest. You know, as far as, you know, what people really try to do to get by, to survive, that, you know, to find that, you know, all different strategies. So it's quite, it is quite amazing what people do, you know.
And how do you keep up to date with all the latest research in your field?
Well, fortunately, working in the NHS, and I'm in a number of peer support groups, and so quite a lot of, you know, a lot of research, you know, goes around amongst us. And I work in a multidisciplinary team, meaning we've got psychiatrists and psychodynamic therapists and sensory motor therapists and clinical psychologists. So everybody has different interests. So I do get to see quite a bit of varied research and
from different areas
yeah.
within the team. And do you have any helpful tips or advice for students or other people interested, like myself, in this line of work? What tips do you have, if any?
I would say that that whatever barriers you come up against, that there is always a way around it. If you look hard enough, there's always a way to get through. And I would say, having a good supervisor or good mentors to help you, critique and give you feedback is really, really helpful.
Thank you. Well, that's all my questions today. I find it all very interesting talking to you, so thanks very much for meeting me today, Jody.
Okay, well, thank you, Elspeth. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.